It has been a minute, but I am back and I am going to be sharing all of our curricula selections that we have made for the school year of 2024 to 2025. So let's get into it. Honestly, I feel like I've been starting a lot of these videos with "it's been a minute" and I'm so incredibly sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to be more consistent with it, and I've actually taken a step back from my other social platforms in an effort to focus on here as well as the podcast. And I think I'm gonna be more satisfied with doing longer forms of content. This is definitely one of the places that I want to be. TikTok I love and it has my heart, but I'm also trying to prepare for the fact that it might not be around. So with that said, I know a lot of people have been waiting to hear about our curriculum selections that we have made for this upcoming year, and I'm gonna unpack all of that for you today. Okay, so to kind of break things down, there's a few things that I want to talk about, but I don't want to go into great detail about a few of them. So if you have questions, I might just make it into another video because I really want this to be focused on the curriculum aspect of things. But joined a charter school this year about midway through the year, and so a lot of people have never heard of charter schools. As far as I know, they're only in California, so that's probably why. But you're gonna hear me talk about charters and the charter funds that we have and all of those things, so I don't want to bore you with that type of info. I definitely don't want to take the time away from this video to explain too much of it because I want to talk about the nitty-gritty of this. The other things that I want to talk about as well to kind of cover what we plan to do with the curriculum, I guess, really is our scheduling. So if you followed me from TikTok, Instagram, or even just on here and have seen the last video that I shared of last year's curriculum selection, I kind of went through and showed you everything. I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to link everything, and then I will also overlay kind of shots of the curriculum as I'm talking about them, but it was too much to pick up each thing and show it off and flip through the pages and all of that. So I want to cut to the chase for you on here as well. So with that said, we're going to start with my oldest, my third grader this year. Right now I'm going to cover the core subjects: language arts, math, science, and history. Science and history are family style curriculums that we have, and so it's something that really kind of applies to all of my kids. So I'll talk about it with my third grader, but you can kind of just understand that it's going to be what we use for my second grader and my TK son as well. So first, for language arts, the good and the beautiful. We're not switching. We've used it for the last few years. We love it. It's worked really well for us, so we are sticking with it. I have the good and beautiful level 3 course book as well as the handwriting book that does not come with it. It's sold separately, but those are the two things that we're using, especially because we're doing cursive this year. I felt like handwriting was going to be very important for him. And then I also bought the alphabet cursive chalkboard from Chalkful Design. I'll have everything linked in the description as well as a blog post too. Just go to my website and find the blog that has the links to everything. It'll be organized there as well. And then the workbooks. So because we can't actually use the good and beautiful curriculum to submit for samples with our charter, our HST will recommend certain types of workbooks that I can order off of Amazon for $5 to $10 that will be approved by the charter as worksheet samples that they'll kind of sign off of to make sure that we're meeting their standard. The next is math. Again, good and beautiful, same thing, just level 3 this time, and then workbooks for charters. And then for science, we are doing a combination of a few things. It's mainly the good and the beautiful and Treehouse Schoolhouse. So the Treehouse Nature Studies from Treehouse Schoolhouse, we have all 4 seasons. This will be our second year of rotating through all of them. I don't know how many years we'll keep repeating it. It's kind of based off of the kids' interest. My plan is that each year that we dive into more nature type stuff, that we, maybe the week that we do rocks and minerals, we dive more into incorporating the good and beautiful unit study of geology as well. We'll just kind of continue to grow off of those topics and pick the things that interest the kids the most. For now, what's kind of leading the charge is the nature studies each week because it kind of keeps us on course and it is year-round. But we also incorporate little hearts and hands to the Treehouse Nature Studies when I can find lessons that kind of fit with that theme for the week. The other thing, like I said before, when we find certain weeks that go with the nature study, there are certain things that won't. We have the Simple Machines unit study from Good and Beautiful that will probably take a week during the summer from Treehouse Nature Study. This is gonna get confusing. We'll take a week off from Treehouse Nature Study, fill that in with one of the, I think we have paleontology, simple machines, and safety. So sometime in the summer, we're gonna take those unit studies from the good and the beautiful and cancel out whatever weeks we choose from the summer unit study or from the summer nature study and just do that. And then I think each year that's kind of what we'll do. We'll dive into some of the things that won't be covered in the Treehouse Nature Study stuff from the good and the beautiful and just kind of cancel out or take weeks off, especially because we're repeating it. It'll be something that the kids are already aware of. They have the knowledge about it. We'll just choose to not dive deeper into it that year, if that makes sense. If you have any questions or want clarification because I wasn't clear, definitely ask and I will try to clarify another time or in a different way. And then last, history. We are doing Beautiful Feet books. So the early American history, they have, I believe this is like K to 3rd grade. I think that's what it is. So we're doing that. And it'll take us about 2 years to get through the curriculum based off of the rate that we're going. Now they have 2 different options of ways that you can kind of unpack all of this. So if you're doing it 4 or 5 days a week versus 2 to 3 days a week, and then it's going to take a little bit longer, but it was crafted that way that it's okay for you to take that pace that you choose. So that's what we're doing. We started now, we're finishing up our Viking section, and then we'll dive into Columbus and that time period next week. Yeah, we'll finish this week and then change over next week. So because it's 2 years and because we're taking more of the year-round approach, that is what our plan is, of just kind of starting now. There wasn't really any reason to hold off and wait. The other thing that I wanted to talk about in regards to these core subjects is our reading. Now, it's not required in our language arts studies or in our language arts lessons. At the end of each lesson in the good and the beautiful, you'll see a box at the bottom that you have your child read from anywhere to like 10 to 20 minutes. And that's supposed to be a daily thing that they do with their lessons. They kind of wrap up their lesson by reading. It's helpful for the moms that are trying to juggle teaching multiples too, because then that sends them on their way to go do something for 10 to 20 minutes. But it's also just great because they're reading. I really wanted my kids to dive into and fall in love with reading because I didn't have that growing up. Getting books that they are interested in makes a world of a difference. I found these reading logs on TikTok. So you put in the book title, the start date, end date, and then the rating, and then you can set a goal on the top. I haven't set a goal for the kids. It's just every 5 books that they read, they'll get a treat, whether it's ice cream for dessert or whatever they want. Just something simple, small, nothing too big, because we want to repeat it. But my son has already read 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books, I believe. And so we have the Secret Explorers for my son. We started with the Magic Tree House books and he just was inhaling those. They were a little bit smaller. I needed something thicker for him. So these are really good. He really likes these. I have Sophia Mouse for my daughter. She likes those ones, but she has fallen in love with the Nancy Clancy books as well. So these are just kind of good starter books if you're looking for stuff for your littles, but finding things that they like, take them to Barnes & Noble and let them explore and see what they like, and then find websites that you can kind of go through and get a good idea of what the context is of the story and if it's appropriate or not. You can also dive in and see basically book recommendations for your kids and their interests and stuff before you go, so that way when you go to Barnes & Noble you can kind of look for certain things and then give them the suggestions, because I'm sure it could be overwhelming for kids too of what the heck are they supposed to pick. So we do that. They have their reading logs, their books, and then we also have these reading journals that we got from School Nest. So what I've incorporated now is that the kids won't be considered done with reading a book if they haven't done their book review. Now, I'm not super strict about it in the sense that like they need to fill everything out or it needs to be like a complete summary of the book. It's more of putting it into practice, the comprehension aspect of it. So that's just a little something that we've incorporated. It's nice because in that way, when they're done and they're hyped up about finishing the book, that's the time to capitalize in them completing that stuff. And then they're excited about it. They want to tell you about it. And you can even have them do more of like an oral narration where you write down everything that they're telling you. So if it's too frustrating because they don't want to do the writing piece, if they are at an age where it's appropriate and for you to be filling things in for them, I still count that in my book as an okay. I'm more than happy to help them because I want them, again, to fall in love with the reading piece of it, not see it as just another task that they have to check off. I want them to find things that they like, that they enjoy, and that they can get lost in. And I think we've done that so far. My second grader, language arts, same thing, The Good and the Beautiful, handwriting workbook for her as well, and then workbooks that will be sample approved for our charter. Same thing with math, The Good and the Beautiful too, and then a workbook to go with the charter. The only thing that's different for her science and history, science is actually going to be exactly the same as I said for my third grader. History, we're still doing Beautiful Feet, the early American history curriculum with her as well. She's participating in that, but I don't know why I'm so giddy about this. It's probably because she's my only girl, and so I want to do extra things for her. But I found these American Girl unit studies based off of different time periods for separate girls from this small shop called Little School of Smiths. I've done her Me on the Map study, and we love that, and I'm actually saving that for my TK if he's interested in it this year, but I have it on hand. And I've had other friends that have done the American Girl units, and they've loved it. So what I would love to do, ideally, I would love to find a group of moms with girls my daughter's age that are doing history as well, and would be up for coming over to the house and just having like a group study for history. So we could do things together with the boys for the early American history unit, but then also have like a separate day that we can have kind of like a girls, almost like a co-op, I guess, but we would host it at the house and just have a few girls come over to be able to do that with her. Because she's my only girl, I want her to have just different things that she gets to tap into. So if you're local and you have a daughter that's going to be 6 this year and you want to do this, please let me know, because I would love to make this a reality for her and make it super cute and everything. I just love her so much, and I think that she would get a kick out of this, and I would get to tap into my girl mom mode for a little bit too. So that's really it for the 2 oldest. The tricky thing for my TK is, how do I say this? I'm basically going to make my own lesson plan for him. We have the preschool and TK curriculum for him from The Good and the Beautiful, but it seems a little too much of like a workbook for him. I don't think that he's going to get the most out of it. We tried the preschool workbook last year and it just was too much reading, and he's just such an active kid. I don't think that he's ready for something like that. But I found another shop that my friend uses, the Alphabet Forest, I think is what it's called. It's from Acorn to Oak. You can find them on Instagram, and it's super adorable. I love the nature aspect of it and everything. I think it's a little too, it's lacking structure to like the level that I would want it, I guess. I don't really know how to explain this. I'm really awful at putting this into words right now. But I want like a middle, and I haven't found that yet, especially for his age. When my other 2 were at this age, they just got to play a lot and we got to hang out. But now, because I have so many, it's not the same. I don't have that same type of time to be able to just sit down and play with him freely. And so I'm trying to figure out how to craft a curriculum for him that's going to give him the fun play aspect while still meeting the requirements that he's going to have with being a part of the charter. So it's a fine line, but I'm up for the challenge. I will say this though, because I know when I did like my morning menus and stuff, like people are eager to know what this is going to be and be a part of it and everything. I'm not gonna have this ready like before we start the school year with him. It's going to kind of be more of like a learn as we go and create as we go type thing. So if I have the energy to document all of it and keep good track of everything that we're doing and incorporating and put it into something, maybe in a year or 2 after we're done, if it works out well, I might put it into something, but I'm making no promises. I just want to say that up front because I don't want to put that pressure on myself either. But it will include language arts and math in it to cover those kind of core subjects that he needs to be focusing on for TK. But with that said, I also have my morning menus on my Etsy shop too. We're going to be I'm wanting to revamp those just a smidge to really be more focused on him, because now that my older two are kind of done with morning menus, they don't really use them anymore. It's not really a necessity for them. I want to really focus on what my 4-year-old needs, and then possibly my 2-year-old. He's really rambunctious, so I don't think that he's really going to be sitting down at the table anytime soon with us to do something like morning menus. But keeping him in mind, I just want my morning menus to kind of go back to being more preschool, early age, focused, centered, whatever. So we have morning menus, lots of play, lots of activity, that kind of in between of like structured without a lot of like reading and sitting still that he's gonna be required to have to do if we did the Good and Beautiful workbooks. And then, like I said before, me on the map is kind of on the table if it seems like something that I could incorporate with him, but that'll probably come later in the year anyways. He really just needs to get adjusted to the rhythm that we're gonna have for him now that we're actually trying to sit down and do more work, or incorporate more lessons, I should say, not work. So we'll see how things go, but it's there. And I'll make sure that I link it if you're interested in looking into it too. And then last, again, science, he's just participating with the big kids. He's not really doing like nature notebooking. He's not writing anything. It's just more of him participating in the discussion and learning things. We have our, are they back there? Our chrysalises right now that'll turn into butterflies soon. So it's little things like that, just activities and projects. He wants to be a part of them. He gets to participate in them. But again, it's not really required. If he wants to get up and go play with Play-Doh or do something else with like the sensor bin that I put together, he's more than welcome to do that. It's not a ton of pressure on him for those things. So those are the core subjects for all 3 of mine that'll actually be sitting down and doing work this year. The other things that I want to dive into are more like Bible and electives, things like that. Okay, so first is Bible. Other than the rooted curriculum that we have from Treehouse Schoolhouse, we have the volume 1. I know that she's working on volume 2 right now. There is not going to be any other curriculum that we're going to be using. Everything else is going to be kind of pieced together. It's more for my kids to explore. That's the perspective that I'm having with it. I don't want to push a lot of expectations on them. I want them to dive into the things that are biblically based at their own pace. Tiny Theologians has a podcast. The Beginner's Bible has their videos on YouTube. We love Veggie Tales. So things like that are things that they can listen to and kind of digest in a very like natural, self-paced type of way with no pressure. It's just kind of something there for them to enjoy and listen to. But then I also have a morning basket for them that has Bible work, or not workbooks, coloring books and things like that, but then also like devotionals and journals and things for them to do that are centered on that. I would love to do theology with them. I think what I'm going to do is find like a theology book or different things kind of based and focused on that, and incorporate a poetry tea time, possibly Thursdays or Fridays, kind of depends on our schedules once we get those really solidified. But having one day that we get to kind of just slow down and take a break and step back from all the curriculum and work that we've been doing, and be able to have like a really slow morning. It might even be the weekends, actually, now that I'm thinking about this, but someday where we can sit down, have a slow morning, open up a book at the dining table, and be able to just have a conversation, to let them ask questions, and then and right there be able to dive into things that they are curious about, they want to know more about. So that is kind of the gist of that. Nothing too complicated, nothing too serious, nothing too committed. I do love the rooted curriculum. It's very simple. So if you are looking for something a little bit more structured, that's definitely something to look into. But again, like I said, we're taking that very loose as well. Next is going to be electives. So we got my oldest a guitar, an acoustic guitar for his birthday. My 6-year-old wants a drum set, and her birthday is coming up in the next few weeks, and we're definitely going to be getting her one, but I'm trying to figure out now how she's going to learn to play this thing, because neither of us have ever touched a drum set in our life, and we definitely don't know how to play it. Guitar I have messed with a little bit when I was younger, and I still have mine, but I definitely don't have the knowledge to teach my kids. And so YouTube videos are our golden space right now. I'm trying to filter through some videos that I can kind of save that I will know that are going to be child appropriate for them to watch. So we found some for my oldest with his guitar, but I am still on the hunt for drums for my daughter. So if you have recommendations of free resources, please send them my way, because drums is something that she has been begging for. So that is on the table for music class, I guess. The other thing is Spanish. My kids love it. They want to learn more. I've had a few options that I've seen on Facebook groups and stuff of offers of like immersions classes. It's just the timing that we can't really figure out. So I'm hoping that we can find a group or a class that's not too expensive that the kids can be a part of. I'm just worried that if it's like once a week, it won't be enough. So we have Duolingo right now. It's not going great. I don't know if that's going to be an unpopular opinion. It just doesn't seem to really be teaching them what they need. I think that when they're this young, they really need to be immersed in it, and they're not getting that from Duolingo, being on a, you know, iPad once a week or whatever. But the charter school has an approved website called Dinolingo that seems to be very similar to Duolingo. So we might try that out for a month and then see what happens. But if it's not working or it seems very similar to Duolingo, it's not going to benefit the kids and we're not going to stick with it. So we're trying to find something. I've heard different YouTube videos as well of like full Spanish speaking type stuff. Like it's really helpful. So we might look into that. But they are the ones that are showing interest in it and want to learn more. So we're trying to fit that in as well. They do jujitsu. That's kind of what takes up the majority of our funds. So we have to be careful with how we're spending everything else to make sure that we're not overspending our funds that we have set aside for jujitsu. And then other things that we're going to use charter funds for are going to be like our zoo passes, maybe the aquarium, different things like that, field trips that we would want to take. And then the last thing is actually super fun, and I don't know if it's in other places outside of like Southern California where we live, but there are different like farm schools that are out here, and they have different options of classes that you could take where you could do like once a week for like 6 weeks, or like a full week for a couple hours each day during like spring break or summer and stuff like that. But we found curriculum from, I think it's called Heritage Schoolhouse. I found her on Instagram, and she created 2 different unit studies, one for like art of making bread and then raising chickens. And so there's like the core subjects incorporated into them, but it's going to teach you about like the life skills of those 2 things. And especially because I've dove into sourdough making, baking, whatever. And then we have quail in the backyard now, and we're thinking about getting chickens. It's something that seemed interesting for the kids. They're super interested in the quail, but I would love to have a chicken coop that we can actually walk into and the kids can see the chickens and all of that stuff. So our mini homestead lifestyle is definitely underway, and I'm definitely like without any shame looking into things like these to try and find fun ways to incorporate those lessons for the kids as well. Life skills are very important. I bought an embroidery kit to kind of like learn like a starting place for sewing, and so I just want to do those things because I never learned those things growing up. And so having that for them, as well as something that I get to learn alongside them, has been super fun for all of us because we connect in a different way and we get to do something and learn something side by side. And it's definitely helping me heal from a lot of things that I've had and experienced growing up as well. Patience is a big one that we're learning and accepting and appreciating in our home now, and just slowing down. So every day is going to look different for us just because of the different commitments that we're going to have, especially in different seasons. Sometimes the kids are going to be doing soccer, they do jujitsu. Like, we just have a lot going on, and it is constantly changing with the seasons. And because of that, it can make it kind of difficult to really figure things out if you don't have a plan. So for us, what we've been doing for the last like month or so is actually switching things up. So we're not incorporating like all subjects every single day, we're alternating. So some days during the week we'll be doing science and history, other days we'll be doing language arts and math. And I might flip those subjects with it, like language arts and history one time or whatever. But right now that's what we're sticking with, because history and science seem to be more of our like big art projects and just any type of projects and activities and stuff. And so it's more of the day gets to be dedicated towards that. And then we sandwich in our like workbook lesson type of days in between those. And so doing it that way seems to help because it gives the kids a break from like the workbook stuff that they have to do. So that's kind of our daily, weekly schedules, is just separating the subjects. And that way it kind of guarantees that we're not spending all day doing things. So if we wanted to go somewhere in the morning or go to like a play date or something like that, or a park meetup in the like later afternoon, we have the time to do those things because we still had a good window, a chunk of time to be able to get 2 subjects done, but we don't have to feel like we're forcing and cramming in all subjects. It's still going to be completed within like the time span that we need to have our schoolwork done for our charters, but we are taking more of the year-round approach because we're going to be starting our curriculum over the summer, because we're finishing what we have up now by May, I believe, like mid-May, and then we're just gonna roll over and start in June. That's gonna help too. Because of that, the year-round schedule, I had a friend, Kaylee, on Instagram. I'll put her stuff in the description as well. She had one Instagram post that was just a bunch of different slides of different schedule options you could take, just like inspiration for you. And so I was diving into that and I decided like it's basically going to be 14 weeks off of school, but not like all together. So it's like every 3 or 4 weeks, I believe, we'll take like a week off afterwards. And then we'll go 3 or 4 weeks and then a week off. I think there's a few times in the year, maybe twice in the year, that we'll double up and do 2, maybe 2.5 weeks or something like that. I think that's Christmas break. And then everything else is basically that. There might be some days that instead of taking a full week, I think I broke up 1 week off during like seasons that we don't really need to be taking a ton of time off. I think like the beginning of like the school year, like September and August, we're kind of just diving into it. So I think I broke up 1 week into just multiple Fridays to take off so we could do field trips and stuff like that. Just wiggle room. That's the approach that we're taking for that as well. It's just as much for the kids, honestly, as it is for me to make sure that we're avoiding burnout. I didn't plan our like time off this year, and because of that, there's a lot of times that we would just hit a week that I needed that break, and we just lazily just didn't get around to the schoolwork. So it technically was a break, but it wasn't planned, and so there was a lot of times that we fell behind. So if you feel like you struggle with burnout, I definitely recommend taking out like your calendar or printing out like a year-long calendar and selecting the times, the weeks that you're gonna take a week or a couple days off, and really outlining everything to make sure that you're still completing your 180 days, I think is what you need. At least for our charter, I believe that's what it is, to meet those requirements for your kids. So with that said, that is basically it. I'm trying to look at my notes. I wrote everything down on here, but in regards to curriculum, that kind of covers it. If you have any questions, definitely drop them in the comment section, and I will do my best to either answer them in another video or maybe on Instagram in my highlights, or just put them in the blog post, or maybe even just answer them in the comment section if it's easy enough. Can't wait to dive into more. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you guys soon.